Welcome to the Remarkable Dentist Podcast with me, Fred Joyal, where I interview amazing dental practice owners digging into their successes and failures, their insights and hindsights, getting their views on where dentistry is going, and discovering what it took for them to become remarkable. Welcome to the Remarkable Dentist Podcast. I am here today with my longtime old friend, Dr. Brian Toorani, who practices or used to practice, which is going to be part of the story, in Orange County. And we're going to hear the whole arc of his career from really struggling initially with his practice to thriving to a really serious crisis in the practice and how he rose above that crisis. So Brian, welcome to the show.
Hey Fred, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure getting to know you all these years, and I'm excited to share my new story of my new journey in life and my professional career now.
Well, and if any of you have read my book, Becoming Remarkable, Brian is one of the remarkable dentists. Look, there it is right there.
Right there behind me.
Listening, he's pointing to the book in his bookcase. Yeah. So this journey has gone into another whole chapter. So give me, when did you start practicing dentistry?
Graduate from University of Pacific. I think it's this one over here in '99, and I've been in private practice since then. I became an owner. I bought in as a partner in 2001, January 1st, but we started the discussion of buying in 2000. So I knew I was buying in 2000, pretty much my first year in practice. And I've made plenty of mistakes during that journey. And I was a partner for 5 years, and the agreement was at 5 years I would buy my partner out, and which occurred in 2006. Then our landlord kicked us out, and we were forced to move out, and we had to, within a year, build a brand new facility. So I dreamed big, I spent big, and I thought big, and we built a huge practice location here. And that's when we relocated to our current location. That was 2008, and then the economy went south, and we struggled through 2009 and 2010, and I restructured the practice then, and kind of survived through all that.
Don't get too far into the twists and turns here, because people are going like, wait a minute, what happened? You know.
Yes.
So you did something. You hit a crisis point fairly early on, and was it triggered by losing the lease, like getting kicked out by the landlord? You had taken over the practice, right?
Yeah. So talk about a domino effect. I bought into a much bigger practice than I was anticipating as I started my career. So that I already had a debt with that, and then I had to build essentially a $1.3 million practice facility. So I had to borrow more money for that. So financially, I had to borrow more money to make this place happen. So I was making all kinds of payments at the time. And so that's when, it all just kind of caught up to me, and I had to figure out ways to get out of that debt situation. So that was the 2009, 2010 era, but it was a combination of having already debt and having to be forced into buying and building a new location.
Yeah, and so you reached a point, you compounded the debt with a significant sized location, and you basically got down to a few $100 or so, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
You really got to the point where it was, you were sitting down. I remember you saying, I think you were sitting down with your wife saying, this is going to be a go big or go under sort of moment.
Yes.
And so,
that was 2010. Actually, I remember very specifically, it was July of 2010, where we had $22 in our checking account, and I couldn't put food on the table. It was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life, having gone through professional education and being a dentist, and not being able to generate enough revenue and income and profitability to even put food on the table was, I think, one of my worst moments in life. And, but, magically, we worked through it, and we made it through. And that's when Sarah came in, and I reduced overhead, and I just pounded away at my debt. But we did set a timeline that, hey, if things aren't going to change by the end of 2010, I literally was just going to close shop and move out of state. We had no other choice. Pack the U-Haul and go. But, one of the things I have discovered more and more, Fred, through all the events in my life and all my failures is, if we just don't quit and we just punch through and we work hard and we keep our faith and just break big problems into smaller problems and just chip at it one thing at a time. I don't know what it is, but the universe tends to reward us back. If we quit too easily, obviously we'll never know what's possible. So my biggest message, and this is what I think I sent you an email on this, that I think my message to a lot of younger practicing dentists is don't give up so easily. Work hard, stay the course, and learn to work on your craft. And the craft isn't just clinical dentistry, but it's the emotional intelligence, the leadership side. And I've made plenty of mistakes from I don't know, getting into heated discussions over technology with friends, or CEREC versus this or that, or guided versus non-guided. That's all technical stuff. And to be honest, I think in the last 2-3 years of my life, I see the world and my life differently. And when I look back at the old self of me, I realize I made so many mistakes, and life isn't about just technology. It's about relationships, and it's about staying the course and finding a way to just chip through the challenges of life. And that's what I've really, really enjoyed, actually, more and more in the last several years.
Well, you brought up something interesting, because I think I've lived a long time too, and made plenty of 6-figure, 7-figure mistakes, and been through, in 800 dentists, we had 3 or 4 real crisis points as well. And it really came down to just showing up and figuring out what you're going to do that day. If you sat there and dwelt on the size and magnitude of the problems and the array of problems, it would paralyze you. But if you said, today I'm going to get this, I'm going to be here all day and maybe till it's dark, and then I'm going to go home and eat and maybe work on it again. But I'm going to work on stuff today. And you, like you said, just keep breaking the problems down so that it's just like football. It's like, get yourself another first down, get 2 more yards, don't keep trying to throw Hail Mary passes over and over again. So you went, and one of the things that you did is you decided to, even though you were massively in debt, you said, I am going to invest in CAD/CAM because I have a massive lab bill. This is going to make me more efficient. It's going to start to cut my overhead. And you became, I don't want to say aggressive, but I would say almost fanatical about learning to use the device to its max, like to refine your skills over and over again, but really push that machine to capacity. And so talk about that a little bit, like that decision point, because that had to be a hard decision to lease one more thing.
Yeah, it's funny. I've talked to some of the business coaches and some of the books behind me, the authors of some of these books, about me wanting to spend more money and, by now getting into more debt, and which went against what their advice had been in the past. But, this time around, I did a lot of analysis. I looked at my production per hour. I looked at how much time is spent with patients, material, costs, my lab bill. My lab bill was about, for me at the time, it was probably anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000 on the average month, depending on how many big cases I got. So I actually talked to my lab tech. I said, hey, listen, I'm considering CEREC. Would you give me a discount if I do my big cases with you? You don't have to give me a discount on the first unit, but if I do multiple units, can you work with me? And he said, no, my overhead's really high. I can't do that. So he kind of helped me with my decision. It made my decision a little easier. And to be really honest, you're right. I am probably not, or I was not the typical CEREC user who just gets it and goes through the journey, and maybe we'll take an advanced course a year or two later and second course 5 years later. I got it and I pushed myself to the limit from day one. And I would say that probably within the first month, I was in the mouth and I was already doing cases and well over 10, 20 units. And then right away, I was already at my advanced course, I think 2 or 3 months into it. And every 3 months, I was taking the next level advanced course. So I pushed myself to the extreme. I also pushed myself, and I made a lot of mistakes with CEREC. I want to see what was really possible with this machine. Okay, will it work? And my thing was, worst case, I just redo the case. It's just a block.
Just right. It's a block. Just make another one. Right.
And it's a learning experience. So to me, I did some really incredible things. I mean, we have so many options now in CEREC, but back in the day, we found ways through the in-lab courses and things like that, and talking to friends, of making our own screw retain restorations before it was even an option in CEREC. So it was so much fun collaborating with some of I consider them the brightest minds in CEREC, and I call them the original group of the crazy guys around the country. And if they're listening to this podcast, you know who you are. We talked about it. We've spent time. But it was fun getting to that level and pushing the envelope and also sharing knowledge and helping others become better and showing what was possible. So I think that's probably what made me perhaps more successful with CEREC than the typical guy at the beginning, because I had no choice. My back was against the wall and there's only one option for me. I had a timeline of December 31st. If we don't have enough more money in our checking and savings account, personal and business, we're moving. So it kind of forced me to get there. And I think setting goals and really holding yourself accountable to those goals really is what I think creates success.
Yeah, absolutely. Having that something to aim for, as they say, if you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter how fast you go, right? Right. So you just basically, you had it in your mind. I'm not sending anything to the lab unless I absolutely have to. Right? I have bought this machine. I am putting it to work today. Yes. Right. So you did, yeah, because the average new CEREC owner back then, especially, they do 1 or 2 or 3, and then they would cautiously move into the device, and some of them, at 6 months they were barely using it. But once it becomes your MO, then you just go, all right, I need another lathe here at this point,
So, interestingly, one of the lessons I had learned was that I had dug into too much of a debt, and I had borrowed too much money. So one of the promises I made myself was, hey, if I make it through 2010, I'm going to use all the money I'm saving from the lab, and I'm going to pound towards this 5-year or 6-year note that I had on the CEREC. And I actually paid it off in, I believe it was in 19 months. I paid off the CEREC in 19 months completely. And since then, it was just making money for me. So instead of buying other things, I just literally every month pounded at my debt, and it was great. And I did the same thing with the cone beam in 2012. I got the cone beam. I did way more implants after. I diagnosed more treatment, and I utilized that money. I paid off my cone beam. I think it was in 19 or 20, 21 months. And it's been great. So I think it's okay to get into the right kind of debt. And with investment,
because I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to attach this very important thought. Some things are expenses and some things are investments. Mm-hmm. This technology is merely an investment and an accelerant to profitability. Now you were very disciplined to say, look, I'm going to erase the cost of this thing so that all it does is earn for me. So that was very smart to do, but debt had crushed you or nearly wiped you out. So you had become rabid about grinding it down, and that's what your money was for. And of course you come out the other side, and now you probably carry very little debt in your life right now.
A lot less now than ever before, and it's been my focus to pay off debt. And I hate debt, honestly. It's like when you pay off your debt, you get this giant monkey off your back. And one of the things I'm most proud of also was I finally got to pay off my student loan in 2016. I remember sending my final payment, and it was the most incredible feeling to just pay that off. And since then, we've attacked more and more things, and pay off debt. And and it was that allowed me to survive my injury. Actually, is the what we had paid off, because we could live longer and survive on lower monthly needs. Yeah. And that's what got me through because there was a long period I had to wait for my disability to get approved and all that. So that's what got me through. And I believe that the universe does weird things to us at times. And we can't understand why things happen. When I lecture and present, I talk about this. Sometimes we lose people or bad things happen and we don't know why. And some of these happen to really good people. But what we don't know and what we can't understand right now is that there is a greater cause. Whatever the suffering is, there is a greater cause. You just have to have faith and stay the course. You'll understand the purpose and the reason for it later on. And I think all the suffering I had during the 2010, all those early years prepared me for the biggest challenge, which is my injury. And if it hadn't been for my previous years of preparation, I would not have survived probably the worst mistake I've ever made in my life.
Yeah. So, all right. So now we're at the point that, your practice is thriving. Was it just one practice? You never went to 2 facilities, or did you?
No, we did not. We're working on that. But we've always been a single location.
Yeah. But you were doing really well. You had a nice Orange County business, high tech, a lot of cosmetic work, a lot of implant work, because you had all the technology to do it efficiently, much more quickly, much more profitably. And then all of a sudden,
I made the dumbest mistake of my life. So December 15, 2017, and some may have heard the story, some may not have, but December 15, 2017, around 2:35 p.m. That night was my Christmas party gathering at my house. Well, my entire team was coming over, and I was trying to get the house ready. I was out of the country to visit my mom, and I had just gotten back. So I was hanging Christmas lights. And yes, I was on a ladder, and I was almost done, and I was hanging the last set of multicolored Christmas lights around the cypress tree, Italian cypress up front. And I did one, and then the second one I was trying to do, and this is like the final touch. And I remember reaching up to hook the top of the light, and the ladder just gave out. And I remember, it's the weirdest thing, when bad things happen, it seems like it took forever, but it was just a fraction of a second. But I felt like I was in the air for a long time. And I remember landing on my right arm. So I actually fell on my right hand, my head bounced off the concrete. And all I remember was everything was oily. I can't explain it, like fuzzy. I couldn't see color. My ears were ringing. I wanted to throw up. And I looked at my right wrist, and my right wrist was literally 90 degrees turned to the side. Actually, it was a slightly more than 90 degrees turn. So it was tingling, and I couldn't feel it. It was numb. And all I remember is my hand's not supposed to be like that. So I just took it, and I pushed it back, and I think I literally fainted. I must have blacked out for a little bit.
Right. And from the pain, the pain you gave yourself on that.
The worst thing I have ever experienced in my entire life. And I heard the celery crunch, and apparently I set my own fracture back because I had fractured my wrist, and I was in so much pain. All I remember is, I don't know how long it took, but I was up. I grabbed my phone. It was sitting on the column next to me. On my left hand, I texted my wife. She had just gone to pick up my son. I said, bad news, send. She said, are you okay? I said, N for no. She said, are you hurt? I said, why? And she says, do you need to go to the doctor? I said, yes. Or why? She goes, do you need to go to the ER? I said, why? She goes, I am on the way. So,
a warning sign. You can't even type really short words.
I was not there, honestly. And the crazy part is Fred, I have an alarm stake in the ground, and I landed just about 4 inches, maybe 3 inches to the side of it. So if I had just slipped over, it would have gone right through me. So apparently it wasn't my time to go yet, but it was.
That's a lot harder to reset the impaled gut thing.
So crazy part is I also saw my fall. This is the dumbest thing on my security camera. So I watched it and I showed it to people, and everybody, you get the classic oh reaction, and some people would just look away. It was horrendous. I saved it for about a year, and then I'm like, I gotta move forward, and I deleted it. I didn't want any history.
We could have cut it into the episode.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But talk about being an idiot. I mean, I'm a dentist on a ladder. And not just a ladder on full concrete, but part of it was on dirt, part of it on concrete, just because I was just so tired trying to get it done. But my biggest message, number one, if you're a dentist, make sure somebody's next to you if you're going to go on a ladder, but try not to go on a ladder, and don't hang your own Christmas lights. It's not worth it. And if you are going to be dumb like me, make sure you have better insurance than I did. I had decent insurance, but you got to protect your family and yourself. So plan for the future and don't be an idiot like me.
Yeah, people tend to be uninsured on that. They go, I should get some disability insurance because I might not be working for 3 to 6 months. How about not at all, right? And what other conditions are in effect? Like, let's say it was you did this in March of 2020. That would not have been helpful. But so you basically you fractured your wrist, you clearly knocked your head on the ground too, and induced a concussion of some kind, right?
Yeah. I wasn't allowed to sleep. I had to stay up the rest of the day. I spent the day at ER, and they didn't do anything. They said, you already set your fracture. They thought I actually seen his physician already. I said, no, I pushed it myself in, and they couldn't believe it. They said, well, we would have done exactly what you did, but we would have loaded you on pain medication and doped you up. But they said, yeah, they just put me in a wrap. They said, you need to see an orthopedic surgeon. And then that's when I went to a cast. I actually worked with my left hand for several weeks, just basic cementation and post-op checks and basic stuff. And then I got permission to work with my cast. I actually practiced with the cast on for about almost 4 months. And, my schedule slowed a little bit, but I still had to produce, and I still had to see patients. Yeah. But interestingly, my nightmare actually began when my cast came off. I couldn't bend my wrist. It was clicking, and I had so much pain in it. And then that's when they did the MRI, and they found out that every ligament in my wrist is pretty much torn. They can't repair it. And the only way, if you ever get a wrist injury, just a little advice, if you get a wrist injury, you fall, go get an MRI. Don't just go for the x-ray. Pay the money if you have to. Because if I had done that initially, I would have been able to get the surgery done right away, and they could have improved my wrist or possibly repaired it. But because every ligament was torn, it had been torn for so many months, they could not repair it. So the only option I have right now on my wrist is to amputate the base bone of my wrist. And they can't guarantee that
You're not going to do that yourself. You're going to go to I know you're interested in doing all the repair work on your wrist yourself.
If it was guided surgery, I may go for it, but I'm just kidding.
No. A cone beam, like hold your arm in the cone beam and just see what's going on there.
You get cone beam on my wrist. And I'm like, yeah, this doesn't look very good. But, interestingly though, I practiced afterwards when the cast came off. I saw the best hand surgeons, and pretty much they all told me the same thing. They can't repair my wrist. And it was probably the worst 18 months of my life, because now the nightmare began that, okay, this is ending. And how am I going to manage this? I got
to get a couple of details here for the listeners. So you didn't have an associate?
I didn't have an associate at the time. No, it was all me.
Yeah. So now you basically couldn't see people. Then you started to see people, the people you liked least, right? Because you were treating them with your left hand and stuff.
Yeah.
But then you gradually, and you started working with a cast, but eventually it hurt more to try to practice once the cast was off. All this whole time, you're the earner, you're the producer in the practice. So, okay. So now what happens? Well, where do we go from here?
Uh, I'm going to tell you that from, I would say, my cast came off, I think it was end of February or March of 2018. And from then until June of 2019, I probably drank more than my entire life in that 1 year period. My answer to the pain management was Motrin was like candy. I was popping Motrin nonstop. And I was just pounding alcohol. I was literally on my way of becoming an alcoholic. I just, that's the only way I could handle the pain, because I would go home almost in tears because my wrist was on fire and I had to produce. And it was probably the toughest physical year for me, working on patients. And it got worse and worse and worse. And I got advice from my accountant, from business advisors, from brokers, financial advisor, everybody. And the unanimous answer to solution was to sell the practice. And it really scared me because I had worked so hard to build my practice, and I just refused to just give up so easily. That's how I've always been. I'm not a quitter. I don't give up easily. So during that year, I just worked through it and I looked at all options. I did all the math and analysis. And, I had I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I was very close to selling the practice, but I just couldn't quit on my patients that easily. And on my team too. So I finally realized I can't practice anymore. I did it for about a year and a half. As a matter of fact, this is one of the biggest issues I had with my disability claim was, wait a minute, you worked for a year and a half. How come all of a sudden you quit? But they don't know the story that I was in so much pain. I actually was massive depression, anxiety. I mean, you name it, I was dealing with during that year and a half. And, but I hid it. I couldn't show it to my family. I couldn't show it to my team or my friends. But I finally came to terms. It was May of 2019 that I came to terms with. I was a speaker at a local event, and that's when I met my associate. Actually, he was one of the attendees, and we talked. And I brought him in and trained him. He was part-time in May, more part-time in June, and early June we made an agreement that he's going to become full-time effective July. And once I saw his potential, and once I saw what was possible, and I had faith in the future, that's when I made my decision. It was probably end of May, early June that, all right, I got to hang this up. I can't do this for the sake of my family and those around me. I got to stop drinking. I can't just live on pain medication. I can't practice anymore. So that's when the transition happened. And I officially, the last day of practicing for me was June 28th, 2019. And then I went into full teaching mode, teaching all the things that I could to my associate to love people and care for people the same way I had. And that was not easy. I'm a pain in the butt to work for. I'm very adamant about how things have to be done. I'm a perfectionist. And he, I'm sure he wanted to quit quite a few times, but he made it through. And, now we're almost at 2 years, and, luckily I'm in a pretty good spot. And again, I think things happen for a reason. And with this new challenge, I took on the leadership role of the practice. So now I'm not practicing dentistry. I keep my license active still, but I'm not practicing dentistry. I just help with consults and treatment planning. I help with lab cases. As a matter of fact, I was just designing on the computer a case and showing on Keynote, FGTP, for those who've taken Frank Spear's courses. And then patients ready to roll. And I just had to draw and show on the screen what's possible. And now my associate's going to do the entire work, and he's ready to roll. So that's what I've enjoyed now. And I feel that my new role in life, my new role in my newfound career is to continue to be the leader that everybody needs me to be, and learn from my past mistakes of my friendships and people and how I've handled things. And I tend to now not make emotional decisions as much as I used to.
So did you have anyone to turn to in the course of this time? When you were drinking hard and living on Motrin and just trying to power through, I'm sure you looked at it and went like, I got a lot of years I'm going to have to do this. How am I going to do this every day?
Yeah. That's such a tough and deep question. I have a lot of good friends, deep friends, dentists actually. I'm in two different groups, my classmates, and I have another group. We call it the Hangover Group. It's our group, and I'm very close with them. And some of them know what I've gone through. Actually, most of them know what I've gone through, and they've been there. Um, they're a huge part of my success, and my emotional support was mostly from them. But I'd say that's probably who I turned to the most, that group. But I didn't share everything with them. There's still quite a bit I haven't shared with them, and they don't need to know. It's my past. But I'd say the one person that really helped me the most was Melanie Clark. Actually, she's my life coach, and props to you, Melanie. I talked to her, and she helped me through a lot of my other issues, even prior to the injury, and after the injury. She was so helpful because she empowered the emotional intelligence within me to handle the emotional side of everything. And again, I feel things happen for a reason. And I love dentistry. I am so passionate about dentistry, and I love what I've been able to do. And I feel that now my new journey is, okay, I can't practice clinical dentistry, but I can still be part of dentistry. I can make dentistry as best as it can be. I can share knowledge. I can guide the younger people. I can guide my team. I can make sure my patients are loved the same manner as always. And I feel that's my new role now. I'm not a Kobe Bryant, but he's one of my biggest idols. And I asked myself, what would Kobe do in this situation, right? So I feel like this is my new career, my new path, and I'm really enjoying the leadership side of dentistry now.
Yeah, well, you've certainly learned a lot, and you can teach somebody to be a great dentist. You can, and maximize the technology, and they can watch you do a case design on computer and see all the little techniques of perfecting a case, and then they can complete it, and then eventually they're going to do it themselves. You're teaching this associate how to become a remarkable dentist, and I that's a great thing to be able to do. And you've told me more than once about how much Frank Spear inspired you. So tell people about that. Your relationship with him and your experience of him.
Gosh, I wish I had taken Frank Spear's courses much sooner. I always enjoyed the clinical side of dentistry. I just didn't know the why part. Like, why do things break? Why do the things fail? How could I have done this better? But I think what I enjoyed about Frank's courses was he literally demystified dentistry to me. And it's like as if you just open up this whole new world of seeing how things are done and why things happen a certain way. Really enjoyed occlusion, understanding how occlusion is a key part of everything that we do. And why certain things fail, it's because we take our eye off of occlusion. But besides just the clinical side, Frank has talked to me in courses and has inspired me. And, the thing, if you've gone to his courses, you know what I'm talking about. He has this magical way of being so humble and making things simple to even my level to where I could understand it. And that's what I enjoyed the most was the aha moments of when that little light bulb turns on. I'm like, now I understand. Now I get it. But he inspired me in many ways. And as I've shared this with you, he's kind of like a dental father figure for me. And the way I always prep teeth, the way I always worked on patients and did case presentation was, what would Frank do? How would he go about this? And what if I put this crown prep and in front of Frank? What would he say? As a matter of fact, he actually looked at my cases in some of the courses that I've been to, and he's like, nice job. And when Frank Spear says, well done or nice job, and not just Frank, but the entire team there at Spear, that to me is, all right, I guess I'm kind of getting it now. So I got to tell you a funny story about Frank. I wanted to thank him for all that he had done for my career a while back. This is, I don't know, 2015, 2014, or somewhere around that time. And, what do you give a guy who already can have everything? I'm like, all right, do I get him a bottle of scotch? Do I send him a box of Cuban cigars? Like, what does he like? And I couldn't figure out what to get him. So I remember I was flying to Maui on our family trip, and I remember I was on my computer, and I said, you know what? Perhaps the best thing I could give him is my honest um, email or a letter to thank him for what he has done for my career. So I just typed up this email, and I hit send. Obviously, it wasn't going to go through because we were flying, but apparently the next time I opened it, it had already gone out via Wi-Fi, and I didn't even know that he had received it, honestly, until my phone started blowing up saying that, hey, Frank's talking about your letter in Boston. And so to me, I feel that was probably the best way I could say thank you to him. But, I think education is a huge part. And my biggest thing in dental education is I really have enjoyed those who are humble and those who inspire. And he's probably one of the best at doing both.
Yeah. Well, I have been in courses, clinical courses of his. I have sat in on them as a non-dentist, and I'm in the back of the room and I'm going, I think I could do this. He was one of the finest clinical teachers. As you say, he makes it so understandable. It was really gifted in that way. There's a lot of people who really understand and who really teach well, but he was really at a whole different level. So yeah, that's an interesting experience, and also a really powerful lesson about if there is somebody that has made that much difference in your life, then a letter of appreciation is the most powerful thing that that you can do for them. Because I get that too sometimes from people who've read my books. They'll go like, I didn't know what I was going to do, and you said read this book and make your team read it. And they said, look, I pulled myself out of the deepest hole, and now I'm up 30% this year. And that's all I need. I don't need anything else. There's, like one guy a year who says that. It's huge, right? I don't need him to buy me a bottle of scotch or put it on Facebook or something like that. It's the fact that I was able to give, at his moment of despair or just like, I don't know what to do. I was able to give him that boost. And, you've given something to Frank that, yeah, he is a guy who, if he wants something, he buys it, right? He's always been that kind of guy as far as I know. So there's no toy you could give him or bottle of wine or whatever that he probably doesn't already have in his cellar. So you gave him something much more precious, which was telling him the impact that he had on your whole career, because that's why he's doing it. And that's why you're doing it. That's why you're becoming more and more of a teacher in this chapter of your life. And you can have a very rich and satisfying, there'll be people giving you letters like this.
I hope so. I've actually, through the whole anxiety and depression side of what I've survived, I've done a few other podcasts and I've been guests, and I've had people reach out to me, and I've actually helped quite a few around the country in not similar situation, but dealing with some of the chemical dependence and things like that. And, when I get that email that, hey, it's been 6 months and I'm doing well, that fills my heart. And it's funny. My wife actually, when I was talking to her about, how do I thank Frank and let him know, she said, just do what you always do. Speak from the heart, get something from the heart. And that's where the whole letter ID came through. So I think you're right. Words are very powerful, and it's very important for us to do that. I think right now, everybody is so dependent on social media, and I actually have declared war on social media. I have Facebook, as you know, but I have Instagram. But I'm on there once in a while, but you don't see me posting as much. I'm not going to start keyboard wars and if somebody really needs help, I'll be there. I private message them or I'll text them if I know them, they need help. But, I think we're so dependent on that. And I'm kind of becoming more and more old school to where I pick up the phone instead of texting. And I want to see people face to face. And no offense with the Zoom thing, but I'm a little zoomed out right now this past 12 months.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to see people live. I can't wait to see things real. But the words can be so powerful. And if we just took words and shared the words properly and from the heart with our team, those around us, I think that has a more profound effect than any gift given.
Yep. The biggest bonus you can give them is that heartfelt, sincere appreciation. I think this is really a great place to end, because there couldn't be a more powerful message, Brian, than this for our listeners. So I'm going to put your email in the show notes. If you want to talk to Brian about anything, or you find out how you can learn from him, find out where he's speaking, but also if you just benefited from this and want to let him know, I'm sure he would appreciate it. And I sure appreciate it. I love hearing the twists and turns of your life. You make fabulous mistakes and survive them, and thrive and learn from them. And that's who you really are. And it's really great to know you and great to see. I hope there's no more real crises coming, but
I'm getting real friendly.
You're pretty good at finding them, So but you'll deal with it. You'll deal with it brilliantly and persistently. So anyway, thank you, Brian. And
thanks, Brad.
And for all of you out there, as you know, podcasters, we crave your subscription, and sharing it and passing it around if you found it valuable. And in the meantime, keep on becoming remarkable.